Hi everyone. I'm really excited to be here with another guest for our channel. This is Jacob, and he reached out and was interested in talking about mental health and living in Russia. So we'll just start with the first question here, which is, what were some of the first mental health symptoms you experienced? And when you first started experiencing these symptoms, or I think from our previous discussions, panic attacks, what was it like to have panic attacks without knowing what they were?
Well, thank you for having me. I guess I always felt different from everyone else. I was antisocial, didn't know the unspoken social terms, how to connect to people, how to be accepted by social groups. I guess it has to do something with my SPD, schizoid personality disorder, because not only I have OCPD as um, as one of my main disorders, personality disorders, but I also have an SPD as a mix of personality disorders. So, starting with panic attacks, yeah, that was something I couldn't expect. I couldn't expect. I remember back then I was living in Moscow, trying to build my career in B2B sales in some corporate job. And I remember one day I woke up a couple of hours before my alarm rings, and I was lying in my bed, and I started to feel like my heart started to beating fast and faster and faster and faster. In one moment, it stopped. It stopped like for 10 seconds. In these 10 seconds, man, they felt like, wow, I never experienced something before. And so I didn't know and I couldn't identify that I was experiencing panic attacks because I hadn't had no experience back then. So I was shocked and I was shocked and I remember thinking, and this is how I'm going to die lying in my apartment, 23 years young, having reached my full potential and not getting even closer to my goals. And that would have been the stupidest death ever, like dying out of some heart disabilities, lying in my apartment early in the morning. So, yeah, and as you can see, I'm alive. If you watch Harry Potter movies, you could call me the boy who lived. So, after 10 seconds or something like this, my heart started to function and beating again. But I couldn't move. I was motionless. A lot of thoughts. I was having a lot of thoughts in my head, and even more questions, and even more questions. So I was shocked. I couldn't be myself for the next week and a half because not only panic attacks, there's a sudden fear of dying, like right now, but also um the feeling of and the fear of going crazy that I was experiencing for the next week and a half. I remember being in the bus and thinking, is it real or is it my mind playing games with me? Am I on a bus or am I just in my apartment and imagining I'm going somewhere? Couldn't tell. I was not only afraid for myself, I was also afraid for hurting our people because as you begin to be afraid of losing your mind, you begin to being afraid of losing your conscious. And when you're unconscious, you can't have total control over your mind and body.
That's such a vivid description. I think one kind of follow-up question to that, and the next one on our question list is, what is the attitude towards mental health in Russia, in general, and how easy or difficult, has it been for you to find people who are understanding of mental health?
Oh, let me begin with how um, mental health is perceived in Russia because I think it's a lot different from what you have in the States, in the Western countries. because in Russia, uh, well, I prefer to divide people in Russia on three categories. The first one are the people who are like me, who struggle with mental health issues, or who have the close ones who struggle with the same things I do every day. The second one is that the people who are afraid of us and people like me and have no idea, no understanding about what is mental health and how people with mental health um, different from everybody else. And they also need help, and we also need to socialize. And the second and the third and the last one, but not least, is that there are people who, well, the third category of people in Russia piss me off the most because these people believe that, well, if I don't have, if I don't struggle with mental health issues, so nobody does. Nobody does because, well, it's on your mind, man. How can you have some disabilities? They're made up, they're fictional, and it's on your head. You just made yourself believe that you have some certain disabilities. And I also have an example for this type of people. Well, you can't come up to a paralyzed man in the streets and tell, man, it is on your head. You just wake up and let's get some beer. I can see you have limbs, legs, and your bones apparently aren't broken. You can function. I also have limbs. Also, my bones aren't broken. So it's on your head. Go and get some beer. You can't do that because you're not too crazy. And my conclusion is that you can't claim that's something you don't have yourself or something you don't struggle yourself with. You can't claim that other people don't have it because you can feel it, you can see it. I know it's in our heads, but not it's yours, but not in your, because you're the lucky one who was born with not highly function. What was the word? Um so you're born lucky because you don't experience things on an everyday basis as I do, for example. You don't have to learn the unspoken social terms to connect to people on an emotional level. You still feel creepy. You don't have to struggle with your anxiety every day. You don't have to go through the same routines on an everyday basis just to feel okay.
Um, yeah, thank you so much for your answer to that question. And I think the analogy you gave was a very helpful one as well, with the wheelchair, the way that society perceives wheelchair users or physical disabilities, compared to mental health conditions. The next question is, how did you first meet a mental health professional, like a psychologist or a psychiatrist? And what concerns did you have throughout this process, or was there anything you were worried about going into this?
Oh, thank you for this question because, well, as I was telling you before, um, people in Russia, even if they have some disabilities, mental health disabilities and issues, they probably wouldn't go to see a therapist in some institutions because they're afraid that everybody will know and they finger at them and say, you're psycho, you can't control yourself, you have some mental health issues, and become less accepted by social group and so society in general. So nobody wants to be creep in the eyes of the society and become someone people don't want to accept and go psycho. Because by this means they would be less insecure and be less likely to leave their houses and come to talk to our people. Come talk to our people. So, people are afraid in Russia to go to these institutions for this reason, and for the second one is to be put into institution and to be locked in for a couple of weeks to be living with the people like us, or even worse, who can control themselves. And people are afraid for this because of these two reasons: being put into institution against their will, and everybody will know. Everybody will know. So I did see psychiatrists and other mental health professionals as well. So I experienced my first panic attacks in April 2023, and as I was afraid not only about losing my conscious, but also the fear, sudden fear of dying right now, I started considering seeing the mental health professional because panic attacks experience was out of my personal control, and I had to meet someone who first would tell me what I was experiencing apart from mental health or apart from panic attacks, and the second one will tell me what I need to do to feel better. So would maybe prescribe me some medication or match me with a therapist, professional therapist. So it took me 4 months to actually to go see a therapist because it's hard. It's hard. It takes a lot of time and inner strength to decide to fully decide to go see a doctor. So I went to a doctor. So I wasn't put into institution against my will because apparently people who can control themselves, they're not put into institution against their will. I think it's some rule in Russia or maybe something else. I don't know. And I went for 3 sessions. I went to see different mental health professionals, and after 3 or maybe 4, I'm not sure, 3 or 4 sessions, the diagnosis was made. So, as I was telling you, I have mixed personality disorder, SPD and OCPD. Experience both. I wasn't prescribed any medication. I was just matched with a mental health professional who I see on and off, not on some consistent basis, because I don't see a point to see a doctor every 2 weeks, every week, or maybe every month. I only go see my professional therapist like when I when I can't cope with my mental health issues myself, when I can't accept my emotions, and when can't just not even control myself, when it becomes hard for me when it becomes for me to cope with my personality disorders. That's the only case when I decide to see my therapist for the next couple of sessions because that helps. That helps. But I don't see the point to see my therapist when I feel okay. What I'm going to tell them, what I'm going to tell them, hey, hey, today I'm feeling good. No worries, no anxiety, just living my life. No, I want to I want to share deepest secrets with my therapist. I want to tell him how bad I'm feeling, what I've been experiencing for the previous time, and how he or she could help me to cope with my mental health issues. Yes, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, thank you for that answer. Kind of a related question is, if you don't mind sharing, what is your mental health like currently?
Well, up to this day, I do experience some sort of anxiety. I have a routine on daily basis, but I managed to cope or maybe reduce my anxiety by doing my routines and um, and hitting the gym, walking 10K steps every day because it's some sort of meditation as well. It not only physically benefits me, but also mentally helps me feel content and not even happy, but peaceful, peaceful and content. Um, let's say cold showers sometimes. And when I speak English as a foreign language, I don't know why, but it helps me feel myself again. It helps me feel content and cope with my emotions better. That's how it helps me. Yes, I still have anxieties. I still have anxieties. And up to this day, I gotta be honest with you, man. I have no idea how to connect with mental health people, healthfully mental health people because they're totally different from me. I don't know how to start conversation. I don't know how to give away my emotions because I function on logical level and I want to be straightforward with people. I'm always straightforward with people and I want the same from the rest of the people to be straightforward to me. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen that way. Yeah. And that's why people who were born with innate abilities to be able to connect to our people like easily, they expect the same from you, and they can't, and you accept being straightforward from for them. They can be straightforward because they have some unspoken social rules they live by, they work by, and everybody. This feels like life. Living in society nowadays is like some sort of game, and there are rules, and people know them, and I don't. And I have to figure out the way myself how to connect to other people and be accepted by normal people, so to say. Yes, I struggle with that. I can't find a girlfriend, which I don't care about, which I don't really care about because things I care about is becoming financially free, start to support my family, also financially, and become someone my family would be proud of and become an example for my real bro, for my nephew, and just to become someone in this world. I don't want to live an average life. I want to live a life people will remember and talk about, become some, not even historical man. I want to become someone. I want to become a great character like 1% population, yes. That's why I feel conscious and worried and anxious every day because I know and I'm concerned that I have faith and I have to fight for my pedestal like daily. I have to do my best, keep studying, keep pushing forward every day, and maybe that's one of the reasons why I feel anxiety, anxiety, and maybe that's one of the reasons I feel worried about my future because I can't imagine wake up one day when I'm 50 or 60 and look back and think, oh, that's what I wasted my how you and how my life for this um not being confident enough. And yes, it's one of the reasons. Yes, that's why and being confident, yes, how I mentioned before. When you feel anxious, you can't feel confident. And it's pretty much holding you back. It's pretty much holding you back because you can't feel confident enough to step up and do what you have to do. Yes. Being being confident, feeling worries, anxieties, and being on a mission, being afraid that you won't be able to achieve your highest potential, not be emotionally connected to our people, not be accepted by social groups is what they have to cope with on an everyday basis.
Yeah, thank you for that answer as well. I think your point is interesting where sometimes our expectations of ourselves can create a sort of pressure or anxiety. There can be a correlation there, certainly.
True.
And I think you already touched on this a bit about how rituals and routines are part of your life. But I'd be very curious if you have anything else that you'd like to share about rituals or routines, or any ways in which OCPD has brought potentially positive aspects to your life as well, if at all.
I think having rituals or routine is primarily because you're obsessed with keeping things under your own control. The same applies to your surroundings because you want the best for yourself. You don't want to settle for less. You want to be an achiever, always aiming for new goals, new new reasons to exist and to live, and you expect the same from the people who you surround yourself with. And it's hard. It's hard because I I know that you can't expect something from our people. You have to let them make their own choices and live their own lives. But because you have this obsessive compulsive personality disorder, not only from yourself, but also from the people you surround yourself with and your close ones. You want to expect the same from them because, well, that's one of the reasons why I keep things under control. My surroundings, my routines, my rituals, and things I pick or choose to do with my life. Because I can't listen to any music. I can't watch any TV show to kill time. I can't read any book. No, it always has to apply to my goals and my personality. And that's something I want to keep under control. Yes, keeping things under control, having routines, um, controlling your surroundings and your own actions and decisions is one of the issue and positive effect of having OCPD.
Thank you. Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of I'm blanking on the word now, but sort of a goal setting mindset that's related to that, which can be really positive potentially. Um,
Being a professionalist, I guess, because
yeah,
when you become thinking as a perfectionist, yes, perfectionist.
yeah,
Sometimes you don't even start some things you always wanted to become a master at. You don't even start them because you don't know the whole plan, how to go from point A to point B. You don't know the whole plan precisely. You don't know your next 100 steps ahead of you. And that's why sometimes you don't even start because being a perfectionist is holding you back because you don't expect from yourself to make mistakes and to make blunders. You want your path to be truly perfect, calm, and like flat. Flat. You don't want it to be bumpy, you want it to be flat and perfect. That's one of the reasons why I don't start some things I wanna start badly.
Mm. Um, this is a little bit of a shift in topic, but I'm looking at our next question on the list, and I know in our previous conversation, um, you'd made a really insightful point about the overlap between mental health and addiction. Would you be willing to discuss that a little bit more?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I would. So I don't have substance abuse problems. I've never been a fan of alcohol and partying, but I think those two are not the only addictions people can face in their lives. It's also eating a beast, playing video games, lifestyle, gambling, smoking nicotine, PMO as porn addiction for the people who never came abroad to this term. So I myself used to experience addictions and used to struggle with vaping addictions. I used to vape a lot, and sometimes it got to the point where I smoked that much. So after every meal, I had to go to the bathroom and vomit because chemicals I was consuming from vape were too much for my inner body to function to process. So I couldn't process them. So my body was sort of um not even ignoring what is the word. So my body couldn't accept the chemicals I was consuming. So after every personal meal, I I vomited and vomit and throwing out didn't even stop me from vaping because I was so addicted to it. And it took me guts, time, and effort to actually say to myself, no, I have to quit. I have to quit. I can't substitute vaping with smoking cigarettes or cigars or weed because it's not going to benefit me in any way and it's going to do me any worse because I'm not dealing by switching from vaping to cigarettes and uh, marijuana isn't going to help me deal with my addiction. It's going to make me worse. So I decided to quit as a cold turkey and I quit and I substituted my negative addiction with something positive. I think that's the only way it works. You have to substitute with something positive if you want to quit it. For Turkey, I started to drink um, tea, like 9 or 10 cups of tea every day just to feel content, content, and not worried about smoking and you vaping again. So when you smoke, when you vape, you have the same feeling of content, of feeling peaceful and not being worried about things. So I have to reach the same feeling, the same high by something positive. So that's probably the reason why I switched to drinking tea. Yes, I quit. It's been more than a year since the last time I vaped. So congrats to myself, to my own self. So and dealing with vaping addiction now is not hard because it's on the past. It's a water underground. It happened in the past. I found inner strength to cover my addiction, and um now I'm more healthy and more sound. So, but unfortunately, that wasn't the only addiction I had to face in my life. I had to face one of the most addictive things people could face, which is PMO, porn addiction, porn and masturbation addiction, and is because I couldn't feel myself anymore. I was emotional, I was socially anxious, I felt social anxiety, and sometimes I felt depressed. I didn't want to, I know I have a lot of goals for myself. I want to be a high achiever, and that's a part of me. But PMO was pretty much stopping me and holding me back from actually start doing the actions toward my goals, plans, and a lot of things. So I decided to quit it because it's not healthy. I've been an addict for 12 years, for the half of my life, to be precise. And when you don't know how to cope with your emotions, when you feel stressed, when you make mistake and you start to feel stressed, depressed, social unaware, the only way to cope with your addiction is to through porn, because that's the only way that makes you feel good for a short period of time. But the question is, you shouldn't ask yourself how to feel good again when you feel bad, stressed, and anxious. You have to start questioning yourself, how can I find the answer why I felt stressed in the first place? How can I cope with without using porn and masturbation? What are the other options? And the options are, one of them is to hit the gym, take a cold shower, and go for a walk. Go for a walk and find positive.
Thank you so much for your answer and for the points about underlying reasons and questions as well. The the last question on the list is, what advice do you have to others who might be experiencing mental health challenges or who might have OCPD or SPD as well, especially those who are also living in Russia?
To those one who also living in Russia, I want to say one thing. Don't be afraid to go see a therapist. Don't be afraid that people might see you creepy, because they probably already think so about you. So you have to find inner strength to go see a mental health professionalist, because first of all you have to think about your own benefits and how to help yourself. You have to stop thinking about and being concerned what other people might think of you and why they don't accept you as a part of their groups. If you want to feel more present and more social, and to know how to cope with your emotions, negative emotions, not only by addictive patterns, but also by digging deeper inside of your soul and conscious. It is through mental health professionals, because they would help you find the ways how you could feel less anxious, feel less stressed, and experience less panic attacks, or at least when you experience them, know how you could cope with them. So go see a doctor. Don't be afraid of being locked in the institution against your will, because you probably wouldn't. And yeah, and just always keep in mind that you're not alone. There's a lot of people like you. I support you, and I'm telling you, go see a therapist. Don't be afraid. People won't point fingers at you, because what you are talking with your therapist about keeps between your therapist and you. Yes. Stay healthy, be yourself, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
Well, thank you so much for that and more generally for your time and for sharing your experiences and yeah, knowledge of mental health. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. You have a good one.